Hi, hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm super excited for today's video because I thought what better excuse than Valentine's Day / just February in general to do a romance reading marathon. I typically read about 50 pages an hour, and all of these books that I have are around 350 to 400 pages, so I feel like realistically I'm probably only going to finish 3 because I'm also probably going to need to sleep at least a couple of hours, but I grabbed 4 just in case, and I do have another backup, a 5th one, but I highly doubt that I'll get to that one. Our first option is The Feeling of Falling in Love, and this has a very like Valentine's Day-esque cover, which I really like. I got this at Barnes & Noble for like 50% off. I get kind of like romantic comedy vibes from this. And then we also have Mistakes Were Made, which this is about basically a female college student hooking up with an older woman at a bar and then finding out that that woman is her friend's mom. So that definitely sounds like some fun drama. And then we have X's and O's, which this has like the most Valentine's Day-esque cover ever. So I'm definitely gonna be reading this one, I think second, because I'm pretty sure the first book that we're gonna read is The Love Hypothesis, because I did check this one out from my library. So I feel like out of all of these books, I should get the one that I need to return out of the way first. I don't know if you can see this, but it is 12:25 and we're gonna go ahead and press start on our timer. I'm pretty sure it's about like a fake dating situation between a student and a professor. Fake dating is one of my favorite tropes, so I'm pretty excited about it. Also, this will be my first Ali Hazelwood book as well. The book actually starts off with the definition of hypothesis. I feel like this is like jumping in super fast. So right now she's been found by the guy in the bathroom crying. Basically, she's saying like a whole reason that she's crying is because she's putting in like super expired contacts, and he keeps calling it his bathroom, and she's like not picking up the fact that he's the professor. She even just said, actually, unless this dude was Mr. Stanford himself, he really needed to stop calling this his bathroom. Well, wouldn't that be like a big indication that that is Mr. Stanford, which I'm assuming is the professor? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, because again, I've literally read 2 seconds of the book, but I hate when characters are super oblivious like that, or like they just don't like connect the dots. It's just frustrating to kind of read. Okay, so I made a little bit of a mistake. She's going to school at Stanford, so her saying that unless this was Mr. Stanford himself, she's referring to Mr. Stanford as like Mr. the owner of the school. But I still stand by the rest of my comments. Yeah, this is totally the professor that she's talking to. I mean, I understand that she like can't see because her eyes are blurry, which like, I mean, if you're putting in contacts that old into your eyes to where they're burning so badly you can't see, is there really a point to having contacts in the first place? Just jumping straight into the story. She just kissed the professor within the first couple paragraphs of the first chapter, but he kissed her back, and yeah. I'm only on page like 45, but this book is so good so far. It's actually really cute and a lot funnier than I was expecting. I wasn't really expecting it to be funny at all, but it's definitely got its moments, and I feel like I keep smiling. Like I keep catching myself smiling while I'm reading. We're getting to the point in the story where Olive, the student, and Adam, the professor's like fake dating relationship is starting to get like a little bit more personal. Like their personal lives are starting to get more involved, and it's just making it so much more exciting. Can't say it enough, but I'm like so pleasantly surprised by this book. We've gotten to my favorite part of the day. The sun has perfectly hit my disco ball, so we've got little light dots everywhere. I feel like this is taking me like an absolute eternity to read, but I figured since today's video is all about like Valentine's Day, loving yourself, treating yourself, I got some dinner. Not the healthiest thing in the world, but it sure is good. I'm on page 125, and we've just kind of gotten into Olive and Adam's first snag, their first kind of confrontation. It's actually like 9:30 now, so this took quite a long time to finish, but we are finished with The Love Hypothesis. As of right now, I'm definitely feeling like it's 5-star territory. I really enjoyed it. Like, there were several times where I was like audibly squealing because I was so excited about what was going on. Whenever I first like finish a book, I'm more about like the feels about how I felt about the book, and I want to actually give you like logic behind it. So I'm going to think about this book a little bit more, write some notes, and then I'll talk to you more about it tomorrow. With that being said, it's time to move on to our next book, and we're gonna go ahead and dig into X's and O's, which I'm super excited for. This is basically about Tara, and basically she's gonna be reaching out to her 10 exes and trying to kind of like, I guess, reignite a spark of some sort. And then it sounds like she kind of enlists her roommate Trevor to help her, and he's basically a firefighter who, it says, Trevor Metcalf will be the first to rush into a burning building, but the last to rush into a relationship. Love just isn't his thing. So this is more of like a friends, I guess, to lovers kind of situation. I'm gonna be making myself a little bit of a hot chocolate, or like a hot chocolate coffee. Like I said, it's after 9 o'clock. So although I'm not tired yet, I know probably in a couple hours or so, I'm gonna start getting tired. Is this not the cutest freaking thing? Basically like a chocolate heart that has apparently a heart-shaped marshmallow on the inside, which I'm very excited to see. So I wanted to make sure like the chocolate dissolved into the coffee, so I put the chocolate bomb in the cup before I poured the coffee in there, and it basically immediately melted the marshmallow. Like the second it popped out of the chocolate, it started dissolving. So these couple little specks of white on the top of my hot chocolate is the only indication that there was a marshmallow. But it does taste pretty good, so that's good. Now let's go ahead and dig into our book, which I will say though, I'm a little, not like sad, but does anyone else get like really attached to characters in the books that they're enjoying to the point where like it feels weird to just jump into another book? Usually when I finish a book, especially one that I like really liked, I kind of like think about the story and the characters for like at least a couple of days after I'm done reading it. And with doing this type of video, you're not really allowing yourself to do that. You have to just kind of like jump straight into, you know, another story, other people's lives. And I feel a little sad about leaving Olive and Adam behind. But now we have Tara and Trevor to get to know, so let's see how this goes. So before you actually get into the book, it does have an author's note that says, "Dear reader, thank you so much for choosing my romantic comedy X's and O's as your next read. While this story is generally light and humorous, I would be remiss if I did not include the following content warnings: emotionally abusive ex, on-page gaslighting, portrayal of child with illness, mentions of deaths of loved ones, and deliberate use of the word crazy throughout." So there are a couple of trigger warnings before you actually get into the book. So that's kind of nice that they added that, because I've definitely read some books, Colleen Hoover, where no such mention, I don't think, was involved. I don't generally like to read things of like domestic abuse and that kind of thing, but I feel like that kind of goes with the territory of her kind of like getting back in contact with her exes. Obviously, they didn't work out for a reason, so I'm assuming a lot of those trigger warnings have to do with specific exes and that kind of thing, so I don't think that it's going to bother me in this instance. So either way, we have the book, so we're going to read it. Good morning. I decided to put on a face mask because it just felt like the right thing to do. I also have this vegan collagen lip mask, and it's supposed to moisturize and plump. I've never actually tried a lip mask before, so I'm very excited to try this. It is like 9 o'clock in the morning at the moment, and we have 7 hours and 40 minutes, give or take a couple minutes, left on our timer. I did end up falling asleep at around like 3 o'clock, so I did stop the timer while I was sleeping. And I did wake up like an hour ago, so I did do a little bit more reading this morning, but I'm currently on chapter 25, which is page 259 out of 361. So I have basically like 100 pages left. So in the next couple of hours, I should be finished with this book. Romance novels are my favorite, but I feel like they are pretty much the most predictable like plot lines. So nothing in this book really has surprised me so far. When they first showed her list of exes, I came up with a theory of what I think was going to happen, specifically about one of the people on the list, and that's kind of starting to play out now. So I'm excited to kind of see where it goes. We're going to resume our timer, keep reading. Oh, actually, we need to stop our timer because I need to do this. Here's our little lip mask. Do you just put it on? I guess so. Oh my gosh, it has like a little slit in it. For what? I look insane. Oh, I just realized I can't drink my coffee. Oh well. How long am I supposed to put this on? 10 to 15 minutes. All right. Resuming timer. I feel like my lips feel any more moisturized. We're gonna put on a little chapstick. Maybe I left it on too long or something. I don't know. Now that I've rehydrated them, they do feel a little softer maybe. I just finished X's and O's. This was so freaking cute. Third and final book for this video. I don't think I'm actually gonna finish this because I do only have 5 hours left on my clock. Okay, so this is basically about Neil, who is going to his brother's wedding with his friend Josh, which Neil and Josh apparently have some sort of friends with benefits situation going on. But then Josh tells Neil that he's in love with him, and I'm guessing that the feelings aren't reciprocated because they're still both gonna go to the wedding but not together anymore. But Neil still wants to bring a date, so he brings his roommate. So it seems like there might be a little bit of theming of fake dating kind of situation with bringing like a not real date to the wedding, but also with Neil and his roommate there might be a little bit of like enemies to lovers because apparently he's like a jerk or whatever. So I think this should be a really fun book and I'm very excited. And to go along with our very last book, we need one last Valentine's Day treat, and what better than a box of chocolates. So the book literally immediately jumps into Josh telling Neil that he loves him and Neil thoroughly not wanting him to be saying that. It literally says the sirens in my head start going off, and then it's like a page of him being like internally like, oh, I could just say it back and then everything will be fine and dandy, but I don't really want to. So he basically just says, okay. And then Josh basically says, I said I love you. And then Neil responds, and I said okay. How freaking brutal is that? I feel really bad for Josh right off the bat. Neil does not get any less brutal in this exchange. If anything, he just gets worse and worse. It says, I knew this was a mistake, Josh whimpers. I don't want to sound mean or anything, but he's getting pretty pitiful. It's like referring to Josh being pitiful after being disappointed that he's not also in love with him. And then Josh again is saying, I knew it. And he says, if you knew it, then why'd you say it? I don't know. He hangs his head in shame. I think part of me was just, I guess, hoping you'd say it back. Not really. Sorry. I tell him. So these people are in high school. I did not realize that. I thought they were going to be at least 20s. This is Neil's perspective. It says, we're in high school for fuck's sake. Who falls in love in high school? It's the day after the last clip that you just saw. I totally intended on finishing this video yesterday, but I ended up getting a headache. But one of the benefits to me not finishing my filming yesterday is I was able to actually finish our last book. So I have all 3 books to fully give you reviews on. So let's go ahead and get started with our books. And the first one that we read was The Love Hypothesis. I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. Really the only thing that kind of bothered me originally, which you did see while I was reading it, was Olive is kind of oblivious, but it really didn't bother me past the epilogue. And the author did actually mention it later on in the book, so I feel like it was kind of done with a purpose. The tension, which is my favorite part of the romance novels, started building basically immediately, which is kind of crazy because Olive and Adam's like first interaction is obviously Olive grabbing him in the hallway and making out with him, which was basically done for her best friend's benefit and not in any kind of romantic sense. But even with that kiss, because of Adam's reaction to it, like I said, it pretty much kicked off the tension right away, which was really interesting and I freaking love. If you saw my reading wrap up for January, you know I am a fan of spice / some smut, and I wasn't expecting there to be any spice in here, so I was pleasantly surprised by that. Although I will say it was a little awkward. I'm pretty sure she's in her mid-20s and he's in his early 30s, so there is a little bit of an age gap, and with that there's also an experience level difference, if you get what I'm saying. But it was still a fun little surprise in the story. And another thing that kind of like stood out to me that I really liked about this book that wasn't necessary but definitely kind of made it a little bit more fun, like the reading experience, was the beginning of every chapter actually has its own hypothesis. Like here's the one for the first chapter. They're just cute and funny and they give like a clue to what the chapter is going to be about, and I really enjoyed them. Chapter 1, Hypothesis. When given a choice between A, a slightly inconvenient situation, and B, a colossal shit show with devastating consequences, I will inevitably end up selecting B. Overall, again, this was a 5-star read for me. I really, really loved it, and I will definitely be reading more Ali Hazelwood. Next up, we read X's and O's, and this was another really cute story. First off, the plot of this story of like Tara trying to reconnect with her exes is super, super fun. But that being said, it did kind of take me a second to get into this book because I feel like Tara's character just kind of came out swinging with how like quirky she is. And then also there was a lot of heavy use, specifically in the beginning, I feel like, of those kind of like trendy or like cheesy like one-liners. For example, things like "not today, Satan" and "sipping some piping hot tea." There was a lot of that in the beginning. That being said, I do feel like it was mostly in the beginning. There was a little bit of it still sprinkled in throughout the story because there is a lot of heavy theming around like social media and stuff like that. Because Tara is a social media influencer, specifically with books, I think she has like an Instagram and a TikTok. And I'm gonna be honest, a lot of times with books, I don't particularly like heavy usage of social media. For some reason, to me, it ends up being kind of like cringy, and it definitely had its moments in this story, not gonna lie. But the social media aspect was also another thing that I actually ended up really enjoying because Tara ended up doing little updates on her, I'm assuming TikTok, because they were little video updates, but they were really quick ones. And just the way that they were written was really fun. Again, I'm going to give you an example, but we're going to do the first one because I don't want to give anything away. This is kind of an example of like what they look like, where it has the title. This one says, "Live with Tara Romance Queen, the death of the meet cute." And then they always start off with little descriptions of kind of where Tara is or like what she looks like and that kind of thing. Like it kind of reminds me of a play where you're like setting the scene kind of a thing. And so this one particularly says, "Tara appears on screen at an upward chin angle, seemingly out of breath, hair slicked back in an unflattering founding father's ponytail. She power walks down a bustling city sidewalk in a seedy neighborhood." And then the rest of it is obviously her like dialogue of what she's saying in her video. And they always start off the same way with her saying, "Hello romance lovers, welcome back to my channel where I talk all things romance." And I just thought that was really cute because I know for me personally, obviously I have this channel and I do have another one, and I always say the same thing when I start and end my videos. So it's kind of cute and kind of like cool to see that in a book. Another thing that I thought was really cool and specific to this book that I feel like a lot of other romance novels don't really do is Trevor was actually a big part of the story. I feel like normally the male lead is kind of just off to the side being tall and handsome, and that's kind of like the extent of his character. But I feel like with this book you had almost equal opportunity to get to know him as you do Tara, so you get kind of like a better connection to both characters, which I feel like is definitely not the norm, and I really appreciated and thought was fun. Also, this book does have some really good tension, and it was done in a really like nice playful way, I think, where obviously they're friends for the majority of the book because Tara is trying to reconnect with her exes. So as far as Trevor goes, she's not really making that an option. So most of their interactions are very like friendly but like kind of flirty, but every once in a while they get a little heavier and a little bit more intense, and those are just like the best. And then also too, like the love hypothesis, there was a little bit of surprise spice, which I appreciated. And yeah, all in all, I really like this book. I did end up giving it 4 stars. Last but not least, we have The Feeling of Falling in Love, and I'm gonna be honest, this was not what I was expecting. From reading the little like description and from like the dumpster fire kind of imagery on the front, I was kind of expecting more of like a campy slapstick kind of comedy type of romance. It definitely did have some humorous moments, but for the most part it ended up actually being a little like heavier, I guess, than I was expecting, because the main character of the story, Neil, is transgender, so it actually had a lot of like mental health slash like introspective type of theming in it. But I did end up giving this 3 stars, so I did definitely enjoy it. This one was also pretty slow for me to get into. I don't think I really got into the story until around page 50 or so, because mainly the main character, Neil, was so abrasive and very unlikable. His friends, his family, his roommate, everyone was like the piece of gum at the bottom of his shoe. He just was really off-putting to me at first. But also too, like the whole reasoning behind Neil wanting his roommate Wyatt to fake date him was kind of unrealistic. He very easily could have figured out his situation without having to make his roommate fake date him. But even the fact that his roommate agreed to fake date him seems very unrealistic to me, because again, Neil was so rude and just really aggressive for no reason, especially toward Wyatt. And I don't know about you, but for me personally, if someone was just like constantly rude to me, I don't see a situation where I would then at any point do them a favor, especially not fly across the country to fake date them for a week. So yeah, so the whole setup of this book was just really hard for me to get into, but I do watch and read a lot of romance, so I had a feeling that once they actually got to the wedding, they would obviously get to know each other more, and I was really hoping that Neil's character would kind of like start to soften and not be so abrasive, and he definitely did pretty much immediately. Like once they even got on the plane, he seemed to calm down a little bit. Overall, I do feel like the development of the characters and the story as a whole were like really sweet. The only thing that really threw me off, and again was another reason why I didn't rate this one as high as the other ones, is because it is between teenagers. The characters overall had kind of like a Gossip Girl type of vibe to me, where it was basically a bunch of teenagers who are all living in a boarding school, so they kind of like are left to their own devices. But where it kind of detaches from that Gossip Girl concept is the characters in this novel were very obviously teenagers, where I feel like when you watch Gossip Girl, you like forget that they're in high school. There's no forgetting that these people are in high school. So it's just kind of like harder for me to kind of like get into because they're teenagers and they're very obviously young. With that being said, there was a specific instance, a kind of spicy scene that I feel like was actually done really well, given the fact that they are teenagers. It was more so written in the sense of it being in the perspective of Neil, not as like what he's doing, but what he's thinking while it's happening. And I just really appreciated how like realistic the experience was, and like how true to a teenage experience specifically it was. I don't know, I feel like it's kind of hard to explain. I just remember reading it and being like, oh, that was nice. Overall, I thought this was a good book. Again, I gave it 3 stars. And with that, those are all of the books that I read for a little 24-hour-ish of reading nothing but romance. And again, today is actual Valentine's Day, so I hope you have had the most amazing Valentine's Day, and I will hopefully see you guys in my next one. Bye! My throat is so dry. Cool.